Ladies and gentlemen, the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society, proudly presents to you another spectacular episode of 15 Minutes of Fandom. That's right. What we do is we take the spotlight and we put it on one wrestling fan that we feel stands out from the crowd. So, with that being said, in one corner, we have the greatest thing on God's green earth. No, we're not talking about money, Mary Jane, or Popeye Spinach. He is the tranquil dart of Ringside Society, Delaware's greatest American hero, and whenever he goes to Taco Bell, he asks for a cheap burrito because he loves the combination of chicken and beef. It takes two to make a thing go right. He is Rob Bass, and you are not. And the second corner, we have that ocean crossing, straight up Boston, flight catching, shot glass snatching. Where's he going next? Nobody knows. Three continents down, three more to go. No cap, straight facts. The worldwide starboy, Remy Blue. But it's not about us. You see, we have a special guest tonight, a man who is not just a wrestling fan. This man is a four-time, I had to do it, four-time football, fantasy football champion, figure collector, wrestling figure collector. And on top of that, he is the host of Slam Sessions podcast. Everybody, welcome to the show, straight from Staten Island, New York, Kid Justice, otherwise known as Albert Albanese. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you guys for having me on. It's an honor to be here.
No problem, no problem. At first, it's funny because we first saw it all started with, Courtney Sawicki. She had a friend called Jimmy Bebe, and we're like, wait, your friend's name is Jimmy Bebe? That's a cool name. We got to have him on the show. We don't know nothing about the guy, but he has a cool name, and we had to have him on. And he lived up to his name because he lived up to it because he definitely is a cool guy. And then we were like, wait a minute, there's three of y'all? Okay, we got to get the whole team then. And so then we got tidy. And now, we have you on here as well. So once again, thank you for, taking time out. How's your Friday going so far? Weekend coming up, man. Any plans?
It's been good. I mean, my weekends are jam packed with getting ready. I also in addition to doing all the crazy things that I do with my show and work and all that, I also act and I direct in a bunch of plays. So I have one coming up upstate New York. I have two that are going to be coming up on Staten Island. So my weekends are just getting myself ready.
Oh yeah, I think I saw you mention something about I forgot what it was. You mentioned it.
So yeah, I was in a play a couple of weeks ago, and then we're actually gearing up for doing another one. In another couple of weeks, we're doing a murder mystery, which would be a whole lot of fun.
Oh wow, that's cool! Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I don't like to say this, but I guess break a leg, but don't break a leg. Put on that Brad Pitt performance, or Denzel Washington performance, and knock it out of the park.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. So I gotta ask, I always ask, all of our, for the most part, most of our guests that we have on the show, I always ask them this question: how did your love for professional wrestling start? What was the match or the main event that you saw that got you hooked?
So I actually grew up with pro wrestling around me almost my entire life. My father was a big pro wrestling fan, and growing up, my sister kind of got into it because my dad was watching it all the time. So my older sister actually had the old LJN wrestling figures and stuff like that. And, she was playing around with them a little bit, and wrestling was always on. Like, there's even home movies of me, like, rocking back and forth in a swing as a baby with, WWE on the background and on the TV. So wrestling has been a part of my life my entire life. But I distinctly remember WrestleMania 3 waking up at, because I was only 2. So I just remember waking up and crawling my way out into the living room and kind of just peeking up and just watching out of the corner of the TV, because I wasn't supposed to be awake, watching WrestleMania 3, a couple of minutes of it before I got yelled at and got in trouble and run back to bed. But yeah, wrestling's been, I mean, my safe place for almost my entire life.
That's awesome. That was a classic WrestleMania 3. Wow, I'll never forget when I first saw it. Most people know about, that's the one where Andre the Giant, where Hulk Hogan mighty slammed Andre the Giant. But I remember Junkyard Dog and King Harley Race going at it, and Um, King Hardy, the stipulation being Junkyard Dog has to bow to the king if he loses. He
Yep.
lost, and he pretends to do a little curtsy, but then he does a bow. But after, when King Hardy races and looking, he gets a butt whipping out of this world. He beat that man like that was his son and he stole something. That's how Junkyard Dog beat that guy. I saw the first ever crooked referee angle with Dangerous Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation versus the Bulldogs and Tito Santana. I
Yep.
remember that. And I think this is the funny one: the birth of Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
That's right. After the Roddy Piper retirement match.
Yeah, yeah, that guy. Oh, Roddy Piper.
Unbelievable.
I keep telling people, Roddy Piper is Ric Flair without the limousine and the women and the suits, and Ric Flair is Roddy Piper with the women, the limousines, and the suits. I keep telling people that. And just look at it and you'll see.
You know what? That's actually a pretty good comparison. Hey, Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney's
hey, what's up, Courtney? Okay, so Courtney, I know you're upset about during SmackDown, but here's the thing. I don't know what time people go to bed, 10 o'clock p.m., and it's East Coast. So, I mean, I just had to do it at 9. I'm sorry. I'll try. I work today.
SmackDown too, Courtney.
He's not on the West Coast. If he's on the West Coast, I would have done it at 12. Cut me some slack, Courtney. Come on. Nah, I'm just kidding.
This is what happens. These time zones.
Yeah. It's I once stayed up for 1 o'clock when I was in England to do a show that was 7 o'clock over in Texas. Yeah, that was that was something.
So on the podcast, normally we usually try to have a fourth person come in, and there's a lot of times where we have our friend Nick who comes in from England, and we joke around all the time that I start the show at 9 p.m. and he's starting the show at 2 a.m. So I regularly feel really bad for him staying up that late, to do it. But he is a trooper and he's always got energy on him. So he's better than I am because by that point I'm out cold.
Yeah, same thing with me too. So, growing up, did you ever get to get to see any of the wrestling events live in person, or did you only get to see them like on TV?
So I actually didn't go to a WWE or a major show until I was until about 1996. So I was in junior high. So maybe 96, 97, somewhere around there. I remember the main event was Austin and Undertaker versus DX, Shawn and Triple H. Austin stunned China. That was like the first time I think we had ever seen that back at that point. So I was like mind blown. But I was lucky that in Staten Island for a while, it's not as prevalent now, but there were actually a lot of independent wrestling events as I grew up. So I was lucky enough that in my backyard, just a couple of, miles away, I got to see guys like Rick Rude and the Honky Tonk Man. Right in front of my face, Ivan Putski and Scott Putski. I mean, just a bunch of pretty decent names just coming in through to Staten Island. And then we had a local wrestling promotion and a couple of ECW guys actually, floated through there. We got a couple of the BWO guys in there and stuff like that. So I was pretty blessed that, like I said, my dad luckily was a wrestling fan. So he would take me to these indie shows on Staten Island. And I have pictures with Brutus Beefcake, Greg Valentine, Tito Santana. Yeah, it was awesome.
Man, you had the coolest dad. You had the coolest family ever, man. Like your sister didn't do it. Your dad took it to wrestling shows. Like I'm convinced. I think I'm the only one because we have a third host, but she couldn't make it. Unfortunately, Kathy. She's out in Louisiana. Kathy's dad was a wrestling fan, and Rob's dad is a wrestling fan too. Rob over here is going to tell you his own story about him being a referee and his family. I think his dad boos him or gives him flack or whatever. I'm surprised he hasn't been on here in a sulky mood with all that. But he'll tell you his story. But wow, that's just awesome, man. I mean, my mother knew that I liked wrestling, but she wasn't into it herself. But she'd always buy me like the wrestling games or the wrestling videotapes and all that. Like she knew that I was into it. But I did have a cousin who was like 8 years older than me. He still watches it actually, but he and I we're always watching wrestling, WCW, WWF. We got excited when Ron Simmons became the first, African American world champion.
Beating Vader,
We
that
got
was a huge moment.
Yeah, we were shocked when Sting became heel back in '99. We're like, Sting, how could you do that? All that. We pretty much, we're the only two that in the house that watch wrestling. So
It's funny because the bond that I had with my cousins, on my mom's side, it was all about pro wrestling. That's all we did. We grew up together, and every time we would go, we were in somebody's basement wrestling each other, or we were playing with our figures. That was it. Like that was our childhood. Like for some kids, it was throwing a football around. For us, we were suplexing each other, and I was the smallest out of all of them, so I was the one who normally got tossed around more than everybody else.
So in my case, I was the biggest one when I was playing wrestling with my friends, and even in school, when I played wrestling, one thing I would do is I would do like the torture rack, the human torture rack, like the torture rack that Lex Luger did, and I remember I'd be like the only one that would actually do that move. Yeah, those are some fun times, man. I tell you.
You can only
So
go back to those days.
yeah, so growing up, like who were some of your favorites you enjoyed watching?
So it's funny. My dad was actually a really big, like I think I joke around. He was like the Mark before Marks were like really even around. My dad liked all the bad guys, and growing up, my sister loved Hulk Hogan, but my dad was anti Hogan. He was a pro Macho Man guy. Macho Man was his favorite wrestler, and then growing up, by virtue of that, Macho Man became my favorite wrestler. So I remember growing up, and Macho was like my hero. And I loved Rick Rude. Actually, I was a big Rick Rude fan. I loved Mr. Perfect. Same thing. I don't know, for some reason I really loved the heels, but it was Macho Man, and then Demolition was my favorite tag team, and then Bret Hart just kind of took over once Macho kind of left, and Bret went on that singles run. I was a Bret Hart guy from there on out, and really I would say Macho, Bret, and Jericho are like my top three of all time.
Yeah, I remembered like Demolition. I was like, they were like so scared. I remember when they attacked the Heart Foundation back in like 1990, which is when I started watching, and I was like, wow, those guys are scary. And then the Legion of Doom debuted that same year, and I always used to cheer for the guys that the other fans cheered for that I saw cheering, and I was like, oh, these guys are scary, but they're good. Legion of Doom. I guess I'll cheer for them too. And then when I saw them like facing Demolition, I was like, wow, like this is like phenomenal. Like two scary looking guys, but two of them are good. The other two or three are bad. But so yeah, and it's funny thing, I actually ended up meeting those guys. Demolition, it's actually gonna be 10 years ago,
Oh,
and they're really cool. I was like taken aback, like wow, like I used to watch these guys when I was 7. Here I am, a 31-year-old man, and these guys, I'm here taking a picture with these guys. That's crazy.
I love moments like that. It's full circle. And, I mean, those matches, Demolition, and then when the Legion of Doom came in, and then, Demolition had a crush. Legion of Doom, like, was, touring house shows with Ultimate Warrior as, like, their tag partner. Just like these 6, monstrous guys in face paint beating the crap out of each other. It was just, as a kid, and that's the thing, a lot of fans now, they're online, they're talking about, arguing about, like, work rate and who's a better worker and who's having better matches and all this kind of stuff. Man, when I was a kid, watching those 6 guys just beat the ever-loving crap out of each other, I was happy. Like, I didn't care what moves they were doing or who was doing what. I was entertained.
Yeah, I think today fans just don't know. Like I always and it's like talking to a brick wall. I mean, I don't mean to talk down to fans, but I try to tell them, just enjoy the show, man. Just give it time, let it cook. Oh, Roman Reigns has been holding the title for too long. Okay, let it cook. And it's like, just give things time. Just relax. But I don't know, like everybody wants everything like all at once. Like, no, you can't get everything at once, man. That's gonna kill the business. You gotta let things just, slow roast for a while, and then eventually get to where it needs to go to.
The internet can be such a beautiful place for a whole bunch of people because, like we both said earlier, growing up, you had your cousin, I had my cousins. I didn't have a lot of friends who were really big wrestling fans. So my fandom was limited to the amount of people that I knew that were wrestling fans that I could talk to. like people now in this generation get to grow up and they can talk to hundreds and thousands of wrestling fans anytime they want, whenever they want. And instead of using that for good, like I feel like as a kid, I would have been so happy to like jump online and talk about wrestling as easy as it was to do it now. And instead we're wasting all of our time just being negative about stuff. I mean, I'm a WWE fan. I'm an AEW fan. If you put wrestling on and it's on in front of me, I'm going to watch it. It doesn't make a difference who's wrestling, what they're doing, what's going on. I'm going to find something out of it that I enjoy because pro wrestling is my passion. And it's been my passion since I was, young.
So my theory about it, I think Rob probably heard me say this. He's probably like, "Oh, Remy, you're saying this story for the 1,000th time." So Rob, I'm not gonna put Rob's business out there, kind of. I know Robbie, but I started watching in 1990. I was 6 going on 7. I'm 41 now. And I grew up where in the era where you had it on Saturday, you had it on Sunday, and that was it. If you didn't have the cool parents that ordered the pay-per-view, you either heard about it from your friends that had the cool parents that ordered the pay-per-view the following Monday or Tuesday or whatever, or you actually saw the couple of stills that WWE would show you the following episode. That's the era I grew up in. This was way before um, wrestling being so accessible and way before Nitro. But now, we have it, it's so accessible now. You have it pretty much every day. I mean, come on, did you ever think you see a day where we have 2 pay-per-views or PLEs on the weekend?
Same
One on
weekend.
Saturday, one on Sunday?
No, I mean, we're eating so good as wrestling fans. And, like you said, so and that's what I appreciate you guys because you're, around that same age as I am. You guys grew up during the time where there was a real war, where 2 companies were really actually going to war against each other and trying to put each other out of business. We're not living in that space anymore. There's enough room for 2 companies and for everybody to get what they want and for everybody to grow. I don't think that we should be so quick to try to get mad at the fans on the other side for liking what they like. Let everybody like what they like. If you dislike it, just don't watch it or just don't pay attention to that, and I try, that was and I'm sure that I'm repeating what Tidy and Jimmy had probably said prior. We tried to bring that angle to our podcast when we, whenever we join back up and we do it. We're probably going to try to do one maybe next weekend, but our goal is to bring positivity back into the pro wrestling space because as fans, we should really want to interact with each other. There are a lot of times where I'm out in person and I'll wear like a wrestling shirt and I get stopped by a wrestling fan. And almost, I would say about 7 out of 10 times, it's one of those interactions where I'm like, oh my God, will this person just get away from me? And it's like, we like the same thing, but why can't we just get along? It's usually people just trashing it.
So me now, don't ever wear a Bullet Club shirt around me because I'll be like, hey, too sweet. I had random people. I remember I was walking in New York.
Like, I'm cool with that.
I was walking. I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn. And I'm walking in the city. And I see a guy, he puts up the Too Sweet, and I put it up. And I'm walking past him like, hold on, wait, we got to do this correctly. And we did the Too Sweet properly. I'm like, yeah, there you go. I was in Japan. I went to there's a New Japan Pro Wrestling store. I was just there last week. It's called the Token Shop. You can get New Japan Pro Wrestling merch there. And I asked the guy, the cashier, who his favorite stable is. He was like, Bullet Club. I'm like, yeah, Too Sweet. We did the Too Sweet. So I'm always doing stuff like that. I'm like, and that's the thing we enjoy. We like talking to like not just wrestlers, but like promoters, managers, and of course wrestling fans. And Courtney, you're probably gonna kill me for this. I don't mean to put your business out there. Courtney was nervous as hell. We were like, no, Courtney, we're not negative. No, we're a professional yet fun podcast, a safe space, man. We're not gonna judge you or anything, And then she was like, okay. I'm like, trust me, nobody's gonna say nothing because I'll block negativity ASAP. No Rocky, you're gonna be fine. And then she came on here, and now she's good, and she's Courtney. We're gonna have you back on our show for that prediction show, so don't go too far. But yeah, so
But
That's
that's the
that's
fun aspect. I like that. Like, like a too sweet here or a couple of minutes. But I mean, most of the time, like there's been times where I have somebody just, oh, you don't like, and look, I try my best to watch everything, but it's hard. I have a job, I have a full-time schedule. There's a lot of wrestling. We're living in a great, we're eating good. We're living in a great world where there's so much wrestling to watch right now. And sometimes I can't watch it all. And a lot of wrestling fans will probably, you know, gravitate their conversation towards the stuff that they like. Meanwhile, for me, I'll talk about anything, but just as long as it's up my alley. If you're going to talk about what's going on in New Japan right now, I might not really know because I don't have the time to go and watch that. But you're going to talk about WWE or AEW television, man, I'm all over it. It depends on, on everything. And I was recently, I had a Cody hoodie on and I ran into a kid. He must have been about 15. I had the best 5-minute interaction with him that I've ever had with a wrestling fan in my life. He saw me in the deli. He was like, "Oh, I love your hoodie. That's so great. Did you go to WrestleMania?" And I did. I went to night one, so we talked about that for a few minutes. And it's stuff like that that put a smile on my face because I can tell that this kid, he had some special needs, but wrestling was like his favorite thing. His eyes lit up when he saw my hoodie, and those are the moments that I like because that's what bonds us. The wrestling fandom bonds us as fans, and that's what we should be celebrating. It's those good moments.
So I gotta ask you about WrestleMania, 40, WrestleMania XL, man. I never thought I'd live to see the day when WrestleMania would be the same numbers, Roman numerals, as the shirt I normally as my shirt size. So I gotta ask you, man, how'd you deal with that night one code? I was like, come on, Rock, come on, Cody, somebody make a pin. Like I want to go home. I'm freezing. I can't feel my hands and my legs. So how did you deal with that cold, man? I was like, geez.
I've never walked into a wrestling show. I've never walked into a venue, and the first thought was, where can I get a cup of coffee? I was freezing. Like, it was chilly out there, and that wind just cut right through us. Honestly, I stayed wrapped up as much as I can, and everybody was like, hey, how come, the WrestleMania Night 1 fans weren't loud? Man, we were trying to be loud, but we were cold. I didn't want to take my hands out of my pocket to clap because I was afraid they were going to smash, and break because of, how cold it was. I mean, I dealt with it the best that I could, but as much as I enjoyed the show, I thought the whole show was so much fun. I was 100% with you in the sense that I was like, all right, if this main event can end, I would be so happy so I can get into a warm car.
Yeah, people are like, we're freezing out there, we're battling like crazy weather. People are trying to acknowledge Roman and they're going and they're shivering like that. It's like they gotta cut us some slack, man. Shoot.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough out there. Night 2, those guys had it way better. I unfortunately didn't go to night 2. I watched it at home, but they had it way better. They seemed a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, I went both nights. It wasn't that bad. Night 2 was better. It was better weather wise, but it was an enjoyable experience. I'm glad I did it. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and hopefully I get to do it again. I don't know. It's going to be in Las Vegas. I don't know if my pockets are going to be able to, because I've been to Vegas before, and
neither have I.
As soon as you hit that lift, it's like $30, $40. I'm like, but I'm just going right over there. I'm like, geez.
I've never been before, and that's like one of those things I'm like, I kind of want to go. But my big thing is this. If they announce like a Raw or SmackDown inside the Sphere, I'm there. That's it. I can't miss out on that. That Sphere looks like the coolest thing in the entire world. And it like the first thing I saw, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, this is made for a WWE show. Not a pro wrestling show. This was made for a WWE show. A high profile, high powered, a whole bunch of screens, all the technical know-how that they have, and all the advancements that they have with all those screens. I can imagine what that's going to look like.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen it fully, but I'll if I ever get a chance, I don't know. I wasn't too impressed by Vegas, but if I ever get a chance to go and witness a wrestling show or WWE show this year, I'll definitely try to. But yeah, Vegas, it's going to be. There hasn't been a WrestleMania in Vegas. It's since 1993, I believe.
That's crazy.
Hopefully this one is better than the, because apparently that WrestleMania was dubbed the worst one ever, and I could see why. Because to me,
Yeah,
even as a 10-year-old kid, I felt like it was, or a 9-year-old kid, it felt lacking. But we'll we'll see what happens next year.
yeah. That show was a little bit problematic. A couple of really good matches on there, but the crux of the card just kind of just didn't carry for the whole thing.
Yeah. So tell us about the podcast, man. Like you, Jimmy Bebe, Tidy, you guys are like three cool guys. You guys are, for some reason when I see you guys, I think of like the New Day for some reason, man. You guys are just like all happy and whatnot. You got, I mean, Tidy's he's kind of strong but silent. Tidy, please don't kill me, man. But he's kind of like the strong, silent type. But I'm sure he has a lot of fun too. You got Jimmy Bebe with the crown and the glasses, man. I'll tell you, if I ever go on a date, I'm gonna definitely add you, baby, for some dresses for some dress tips, man. Because I'm out. He got style, you
Boys got
know.
swag.
Yeah,
Yeah, honestly, I got to thank Jimmy. We had no idea who each other were. We followed each other randomly on Twitter at one point. I saw a couple of things that he posted. I was like, I like this guy. This guy's got, he's got some good views. I like the way he thinks. Let's give him a follow. We interacted a few times, and then at one point he kind of just hit me up and he was like, hey, bud, would you want to come on and do this show? We want to be positive. We want to talk about pro wrestling, but we don't want to get negative. There are times we get a little negative because it's hard not to. But for the most part, I feel like our negativity isn't geared towards the wrestling promotions in and of themselves. They're really geared more towards the fandoms and the anger that gets behind that. So once he kind of told me that his deal was, let's be positive, I said, let's do it. Let's have some fun. And it's been a blast. We're going to try to, reunite again because we've taken a little bit of time off because scheduling has been a little bit hard, but we're going to try to reunite again. Maybe hopefully next week we might even try to do something. But it's been one of the most fun years that I've had. We did it for about a year straight, and just talking wrestling with those guys and the amazing people that we got in the chat has been an absolute delight for me. And comparing us to the New Day is the biggest compliment I've ever gotten in my entire life.
yeah. Y'all are definitely. For some reason, I see y'all like the New Day. Y'all are just all cheery and whatnot, and that's awesome. That's. Oh, is this? Wow, Jimmy Bebe is here. Hey, what's up, Jimmy? What's going on, man?
Speaking of them, appreciate
Jimmy
you taking the time
Bebe.
away from SmackDown, dude.
Yes, I just got two more questions to ask you
Sure.
before I turn. I know Rob's going to ask you a bunch of questions about the wrestling figures. I know he's going to ask. He's probably going to ask about that.
I can't wait.
And just a heads up, if you're a Star Wars fan, he's going to ask you a bunch about that too. He's probably going to ask you about that because he loves that kind of stuff, which is cool. I mean, but so my second to last question, man.
I'm literally wearing a Star Wars shirt right now.
Oh, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. So and it's funny because I always say that my mentor that got me into podcasting, I tell him that so he himself had a guy that put him onto as the host of a wrestling show, and his name is George. My mentor is George Alonso. His mentor is Roman. I forgot what his last name was, but they do the Roman show. So I'm like, George, Roman is like you're the Qui-Gon Jinn to your Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're like the Obi-Wan Kenobi to my Anakin Skywalker. Just that I haven't turned heel yet, or I haven't turned on you yet. So
I
that's why
love
I always tell them. So second to last question. So you're now the host of the Slam sessions. So tell us about that. What's that about?
So the Slam sessions is actually something that I have been trying to do since I was like 18 years old. I'm not going to sit here and say that in my mind that I created the idea for what a podcast was, but I remember being a kid and I always remember thinking to myself, I grew up listening, you're a New Yorker, so you grew up listening, if you're a sports fan, to WFAN. That's what you do. If you're a sports fan, that's what you listen to. And I listened to the Fan all the time. I was growing up, especially, I'm not a big baseball fan right now, but I was a big Yankee fan growing up, a big Jets fan growing up. So I listened to sports talk radio. And at one point, I thought to myself, I would love for there to be a show like that on the radio about wrestling. how cool would that be if we can have a talk show just about pro wrestling? And I was like, man, it would be really cool if there was like a cool name for it. And in my mind, I said the Slam Sessions. That'd be a cool name for a wrestling show. And I held that in my pocket from when I was like 18 years old until I turned 30 and graduated from broadcasting school, and decided that after all these years of wanting to do something in broadcasting, I was just going to try to create my own lane. And I created my own channel. So the Slam Sessions is me more than anything else. It's really just how I'm feeling and what I feel like talking about and when I feel like talking about it. And for the most part, over the last year, coming up on a full year, I've been documenting the changes that I've been making in my toy room. And that's what the Slam Sessions has kind of become more than anything else, is my almost like a weekly glimpse into my ever-changing toy room. So I started off with a couple of figures hanging around in my parents' attic, because that was my old bedroom, and that spawned into half of this space that I'm in right now being dedicated to just wrestling figures. So the Slam Sessions is about that, and it's about just talking about pro wrestling with really cool people. I've been very lucky to be blessed with a really, really cool amount of people to talk wrestling with. I was fortunate enough, you talk about mentors, Dave Lee from the Dave Knows Wrestling podcast. His YouTube channel is absolutely unbelievable. Dave and I are great friends, and Dave is the one who really got me into doing all this. So
Wow.
you know Dave then.
I think I've seen his channel.
Yeah.
I think I've seen his channel.
Dave's
There's a couple.
Yeah, he lives in Jersey. He's actually not even far from us, and his shows were unbelievable. And I was lucky enough that we hit it off. He went to the same broadcasting school as I did, and he had graduated a year prior, and he was just there working on some stuff. I mentioned one day I was a wrestling fan. That was it. We were off to the races, and I hosted live streams with Dave for about almost 3 years straight. And that was my introduction into doing all of this stuff. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be this easily, it wouldn't be so easy for me to be on camera like this, because I got all that training from Dave.
Wow, that's awesome. They had a great mentor like that. But I gotta say, man, that's kudos to you on graduating, broadcasting school. People like you should be just doing a pod. You should be out there doing like the media scrum, man. Like, come on, bro. You should be
I
out
would
like
love to do that. I absolutely would. But my thing is that I don't know if I want to get, especially in wrestling media, I don't know if I want to get in that deep. I think the one thing that we've missed, obviously all three of us, we've all been wrestling fans for our entire lives. And when we were kids, everything was a surprise. And I miss the surprises. I don't want to be the guy that's going to go and try to break this big wrestling story about who's going to return, because I want to watch the show and be surprised, and I want to ruin it for myself. But I respect a lot of the people in that wrestling media, in that space, that do it the right way, that aren't just making things up for clicks, and aren't just, that they're putting their nose to the grindstone and doing all that. Because graduating from broadcasting school, realizing what it means to track down a story, how to vet your sources, all that kind of stuff, it's a difficult process to go through.
wow, that's cool, man. I gotta say, I mean, teach their own, but honestly, I mean, I think if you wanted, you definitely kill it in
Thank you.
media. And best believe if we hear, Albert Albanese from Slam Sessions, so we recently, I'll be like, yo, he did it. Yeah. Let me tell you, you should have seen how I was jumping up for joy. You probably seen her on Twitter, Stephanie Hypes.
Yes.
Wonderful individual. Shout out to Stephanie. We had her on our show 4 years ago. We had her on our show for a prediction show, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago. Very wonderful individual, and she killed it WrestleMania weekend. I was like, yes, go. I'm hoping WWE hires her, but if not, I mean, it is what it is. But she's been doing wonderful, and we tweeted the other day. We were like, one of the things that, and a lot of people don't know, is that we here do is when we have people on the show, we hope that it encourages them to keep on keeping on, to keep on being a fan, to elevate from being a fan, whether it's a wrestler, a promoter, a manager, heck, even starting their own podcast. That's what one of the things that we aim to do. And Stephanie actually did that. She said we apparently inspired her, and we're very happy for her, and that's what we hope to do for you know many other people. That's why we tell people we're not here to judge. We're not here to we're a fun podcast, and hopefully by the end, people actually decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to do more of this, or I'm gonna try to become a wrestler, or I'm gonna actually start my own podcast. And we're always happy here, man. Like I tell people, like, we don't have like a forbidden door or anything here when it comes. Even you're a podcaster. You're a
Yeah,
podcaster. I'm a podcaster. There's no. I tell people, hey, check out the Slam sessions. There's no forbidden door here. If we had a forbidden door, when we were building Ringside Society, Rob and Kathy probably broke it down. So when we put it in, so yeah.
there's no reason why we can't all support each other. That's the way it should work. We should all want a success for every single one of us.
Oh yeah, that's how I am too. Definitely am. So my last question, man, since you're an old school fan like myself, maybe Rob, like I said, I'm not gonna put Rob's business out there, you know. Although I think Rob is like 28 or 29, I don't know, but um, so wrestling themes, man. We've heard some great wrestling themes. Girls in Cars, Rockin' Rockers, the Hitman theme, all these other. What are your top 5 wrestling themes that
Ooh.
when you hear them, nobody can say nothing? You don't want to hear nothing. Let me listen to my wrestling theme just for these next couple minutes, and you can talk about whatever afterwards.
That is so hard to do. Honestly, a
You can
lot of
have. I'll tell you what. You could do 5 and an honorable mention.
all right. A lot of my favorite ones are like really obscure. Two of my favorite wrestling themes of all time are, and this is going to be such a weird pull, but the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers theme.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely just the cheekiness of of what it is so great. Jimmy Hart does a great job in producing it. I love that gimmick was that they were like these these French Canadians coming over and like being happy Americans, even though they make fun of us all the time. I think that theme song, if you guys haven't listened to it, underrated banger. Another one which doesn't get talked about enough until FTR thankfully put it back into the conversation. The original Midnight Express theme song is absolutely like light years ahead of its time. I remember being a kid and watching an old like NWA tape that my dad had, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what's this all about? It's like from like the 80s, and I'm just like, I don't even know who half these guys are. And that Midnight Express theme came on. I went, who are these guys? What is that song? How do I listen to this nonstop? That song is unbelievable. But oh man, it's hard to do like a couple more. Edge, his current theme, just I was a big Edge guy growing up. I thought that's a really Alter Bridge is a great band, so it makes a lot of sense that that's a really good one too. How could you not mention Stone Cold Steve Austin? That's just so iconic.
Oh yeah.
And I love Sting's Crow theme. I think that's just that character is so good. That theme is like one of those that like accentuates that character so much that makes it so much better.
Wow. So real quickly, my 5 are, my first favorite tag team, the Rockers. Anytime I hear that, I'm like, yes, this is definitely
Love that.
my theme that I enjoy. The Hollywood Rock entrance theme when he came back in 2003. That was
That's a
actually one
really
of my
good one.
favorites. You mentioned Edge. My favorite Edge theme, and I know he'll probably never go back to it, but one can dream. Never Gonna Stop. What is it?
The
Groovy
Rob
Cross
Zombie.
Groove by Rob Zombie.
Such a good
That
song. I
that
love
was
it.
that was my jam. Christian's first was this his first or second theme? The one with Waterproof Blonde. That was my favorite too.
Is that the one with the rock opera one?
Yeah, yeah. I think but it was a bit sped up, but it was like
Yeah.
just close your eye. Yeah. That was my favorite one. And last but not least, my favorite, my fifth all-time favorite, theme song was actually the Horseman one, the Four Horsemen. Yeah,
That's a
that
great
little
one.
like guitar, like hard guitar solo. But yeah, that's one of my all time favorites. Those are my all time five favorites.
Those are great.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Rob. I know Rob has has a couple of questions as well. Rob, go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
All right, sweet. Thanks, man. So what's going on, man? How's everything on the going for you on the podcast? You doing all right so far?
Everything, yeah. I mean, doing great. I mean, this has been a blast.
All right, sweet, man. So you were mentioning earlier, you collect figures and stuff, man. Me personally, I don't collect any. The only two I have are Bray Wyatt ones. And I got them for Christmas because my aunt. It's kind of like what Remy said. He had an aunt that used to get him games and stuff. I have an aunt. She knows I like wrestling, so she just gives me anything she sees wrestling or whatever. So like, oh yeah, Rob would like this. Here you go. And she asked me one time who my favorite wrestler was. I was like Bray Wyatt. She got me a theme one and a regular Bray Wyatt. One time. So I was like, all right, there's the only two I got.
That's
But
cool.
I work for one CW and at one of the gimmick tables, a guy there sells toys and all that stuff there all the time. Man, he has a bunch of them. So how long have you been collecting, and like what are some of your personal favorites, and do you have any like any rare ones if there are any, you know what I mean, like I watched the Bundys or something, and one of the neighbor woman Marcy had a Barbie with a scar on the bottom of her foot, and they lost it, and they tried to get it, but it wasn't that one because it didn't have a scar on the foot. It wasn't the same one. It wasn't the air one and all. Like, but are there any rare ones like that, for collect the stuff like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, to answer the first part of your question, I've actually collected wrestling figures as long as I've been a wrestling fan. Like I said, my sister had the LJNs growing up, the big rubber guys, and then I would play with those. And then the Hasbro's came out, and once that happened, I was off to the races. That was my wheelhouse, and to this day, I'm piecing together, getting the full set of Hasbro's. I think there's 96 in total, and I maybe got about 10 or 15 left to go to complete
Okay.
that. Yeah, but I do have a couple of kind of rare pieces. I have a signed Bret Hart, the Defining Moments figure. He's got the WWE title, the Canadian flag behind him. That figure in and of itself is a pretty rare figure, but having it signed is even more rare. Outside of that, there are some figures that are pretty rare. There's some. I'm a big listener of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. That's Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, and they've talked about like some of these that like, some of them are so like far down you don't even know like what they are or like if they're around, and the demand, it's not, they're expensive because not because they're expensive figures, but the demand is so high because there's so little of them made or so little of them in good condition. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of the stuff that I have, it's nothing super duper rare. Some pretty expensive pieces. If I sold everything, I'd probably be able to like put myself out of debt and maybe come close to like, paying off my car or whatever. But don't tell my girlfriend that. Hopefully she's not watching.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, man, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. I'm not. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. So, speaking on that, do you play the wrestling games or whatever too? Are you past that age?
No, so I haven't gotten the newest WWE 2K game, but I was playing the last one, which I know was universally panned, and I can see why because it wasn't that great.
Which one was that? 23.
I think so. It was the one, whatever one that came out where they took right before it. They was just like the game was so bad they took a full year off. They made the new one and took a full year
that
off.
one was
All right,
20. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
I
man,
think that's what it was.
that one was bad. Yes, that one was.
Yeah,
I remember playing that with my friends, and it was so bad that we would just play it just for the laughs, just for how bad. You just end up doing something, and you just start flipping. You're in midair, and we just laugh. It's like, well, I don't know how are we gonna win now. I mean, you can't pin this person. They're just like you're in the air, like, yeah. Oh yeah,
he's
that
hanging
one's
from the
so
money
bad.
titles. I don't know how you're gonna pin him.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh my gosh.
But man, that was like video games growing up. That was like my thing. Like WWF No Mercy for N64 that was my Bible. Like growing up, I think I probably wasted more time playing that video game than maybe any other video game in the history of my life. Wrestling video games were like, I mean, it was the closest way outside of the figures to like bringing that stuff to life. And I love them. I still do. I got to get the newest one actually, because I keep seeing game clips from it and I'm like, all right, I got to play this.
That's right. That's right. I've been playing on my PC. I got Fire Pro Wrestling on there, and I love doing the GM mode on there because that one is like so in depth, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know how to create wrestlers on there. I don't have that eye, for making an outfit and putting the people on there, or whatever. I mean, there's some people on there you can make like look exactly like the person. I'm like, I don't know. I wish I had that talent, but I can't. But yeah, it's got a good thing, man. You can run your stuff and on there, and those Fire Pro Wrestling games are awesome. But yeah, like you said, I haven't played the newer one yet, and it does look good.
It
But I do
does.
like playing the GM mode on the. I had the GM mode for the last one I had. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and like you said, some of those guys that make those creations are crazy. I don't even try to attempt. I'll make like my own character in every game.
Yeah.
That's like my first thing. I'll make my own character, and then after that, if there's anybody that I want, community creations, download, boom. All right, it's done and in the game now.
Same here, man. That's what I do. My characters they're pretty basic, man. They kind of look pretty much like Maven because if you think, man, Maven, what his outfit and all was, he was pretty much a creative wrestler, unfinished creative wrestler. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm pretty much that's me. I'm like, oh yeah, let me just throw some black pants on, white shirt. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, like I try to I'll get a little bit in depth, try to make myself look as close as I possibly can to what I look like in real life. With, of course, I mean, face wise, body wise. Let's face it. Unless we want to create somebody who looked like an absolute slob, in there, that wasn't going to work out. So
Yeah.
I look a little bit more toned in the video games, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I can't even do the face thing. I'm just like random. I'm like, all right, we're good to go right here. I'll do this one this time. I can't even do that. I'm just like. I'll just play the game.
So it makes it easy for me.
Yeah, there you go. I like adding beards on my people too, but only if they're like the crazy ones. Like if you got a mustache and it's the one where you go around like this, one of the handlebar ones. I'll put those on. One that do that. But yeah, I can't do the face stuff on there. But the people on there they can get it like looking exactly like the person. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, man, more power to you. Like that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, I have no idea how they do it. That's a talent.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, have you going to shows and stuff and all? Yeah, have you met any wrestlers? That at any like meet and greets or anything, or maybe after a show or anything? Have you met anybody?
So I'm not a big meet and greet guy. And it's really the reason is that, and I tell this to a lot of people, and people like shake their head at me because a lot of my friends actually go to them now, and they're like, I always feel like I don't want to have a 5-minute conversation with somebody. Like I would rather like sit down and like have a beer with somebody and like talk for like a half an hour. It's hard for me to like express my fandom in a couple of minutes, but there are exceptions to those rules. And I did meet Bret Hart. Yeah, he did an autograph signing on Staten Island, and I said, "There's absolutely no way if he's coming to where I live that I can miss out meeting him." And he was, I mean, to this day, one of the coolest guys I've ever met. The promoter there didn't tell anybody until we had all kind of filed in and started buying things. He's only signing one item. So if you buy more than one item at the gimmick table, like one or more pictures, he's only going to sign one of them. So I was like, great. I purchased these 2 pictures, one of just Brett, one of Brett and Owen during WrestleMania 10. I was like, all right, I'll get Brett to sign the solo one because, it's only Brett here. I obviously can't get this signed by Owen, so whatever. Yeah. I'll just keep this in the frame. I got up there. We had a conversation for a couple of minutes, and then he looked down and he said, do you want me to sign that one too? I said, yeah, sure. That'd be great. I mean, didn't have to do that. Just the nicest guy ever. But my best story is I went to ECW One Night Stand, the second one, where Rob Van Dam won the world title from Edge. I'm sorry, from Cena, where Edge interfered. And a buddy of mine who I went with, we were in the parking lot just waiting to go, to get our car. And little Guido is just standing right there, just hanging out, waiting to get his car. And we were like, holy shit, little Guido, this is so cool. So we just got on and just had a conversation. We talked to him, me and it was 7 or 8 of fans around there. He sat there, signed everybody's ticket, had a conversation with everybody, was the nicest guy I have ever met in my entire life. It's legitimately one of the best interactions I've ever had with anybody ever. He is the coolest guy. But outside of that, like I was telling Remy earlier, when I was younger, I met a bunch of guys when I was younger. Tito Santana, Greg Valentine, Bruce Beefcake, Iron Man, Tommy Cairo. And there was a couple other ones where, you know, they would just do these meet and greets in the ring when I would go to these shows, and I'd get to go inside the ring. I remember being like 9 or 10 and stepping inside a wrestling ring for the first time. And I was like, this is the coolest moment of my life. So like, grabbing onto the ropes and playing with the turnbuckles. Cause I mean, how else could you not be excited? Right. But yeah, those are probably, I would say it's pretty much just about everybody that I've met. There's a couple, and of course the Major Pod guys. I went to their first toy drive and I met Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, Hornswoggle was there, the Dark Order. I think it was John Silver and Alex Reynolds were there. Tommy Dreamer and Taz were both there, which was, I mean, my ECW fandom drove me wild. But the best was MJF was there. It was a toy drive. No one was charging anybody for signatures. You can come in, get whatever you wanted signed, except for MJF. $20 an autograph, and he still completely shit on every person that walked up to his line. Little kids, told them off. There were kids in front of me, and he was cursing them out, telling them to hurry the F up, get going, come on, let's go. I complimented him on his suit, and I was like, man, that's a really, really nice suit. He goes, of course it is, you dumbass. I picked it out. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. I like when they stay in characters and all that good stuff, man. That is awesome, man. Even when you get the kids up there, man, you know, they're all like, oh, man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, pay for the experience. You know that they want to be yelled at just as much as everybody else. We were that young at one time. We want to just be included. We don't want to be treated special. That's
right. Yeah, man. When you were talking about, going in the ring when you were younger, man, I remember it was like a couple summers ago. 1CW, we were doing a show. It was for it was something for drunk driving, to benefit drunk driving or something, something like that. A show, the state police were doing, and we were down there. We had just finished setting up the ring, and I remember we were walking. I think they had like a food truck. We were walking over to go get some breakfast sandwiches, and one of the cops come up and was all like, "Yeah, I used to watch wrestling. Is it cool if I go in the ring and stuff? Can we hop up in? Can I go in there?" It's like, I was like thinking, I was like, man, I don't want to go in there. The cop hurt himself. And I was like, well, you know what? I mean, if he does, I guess that, somebody was recording, that'd be a good, YouTube video or something. Like, yeah, go on in there. He went in there, and I swear, this cop, a grown man, I don't know, he's probably been on force a few years, it protects and serves, he's probably saved countless lives and all this stuff. He got in that ring, he dropped it to his knees, and was like, going over to the corner, I was laughing, I'm like, yes. That is awesome, like, because the first time, when I started training, that's pretty much the first thing I did too. I was like, I was doing that stuff too. I was like, I got it out of the way first, and then it was all business,
Look, there's the aspect of, and I've heard like a lot of people talk about. Obviously, you have experience going to schools and stuff like that. You got to get that out of you, that fandom part of you. You got to get it out of you, at one point, because if you're gonna try to be in the pro wrestling business and you weren't a fan, what were you really doing to be in there in the first place? All of us have that in us, and that was immediately. Even still to this day, I know, I have friends who have, who know friends who like run wrestling shows. I've been in rings, since then, and it's that same reaction. I mean, I did for a brief couple of minutes at WrestleMania 29. They had a ring set up at WrestleMania Access, and I was like, I got to figure out a way to get in this thing just to get in the ring. And now I have a picture inside of myself inside of technically a real WWE ring. I had to do a dance off, which is the worst thing ever because I cannot dance at all. But I was like, anything to get in the ring. And luckily, Damian Sandow actually was in the ring at the same time as me at one point. And I was like, this is like every wrestling fan's dream. If you've never been able to like experience this is the one thing you got to do. Just getting inside there, just seeing what it's like, just being on like the inside of that. It's a life-altering experience from, being a fan. It's the other side of that, of that curtain, basically, of what we wanted to see. We've always wanted to be on that side and to get to be in there, even if it's just for a couple minutes for no reason whatsoever. Still to this day, like highlights of my life. I still remember that. Like it was yesterday. I don't remember anything.
That's right. Yeah. That stuff's awesome, man. Yeah. You got to do that stuff. Got to do that stuff, man. So, before I pass it on back to Remy, I do got to ask, I mean, what are some like new movies and TV shows you're watching right now, man? Other than wrestling and all, man, because I'm always trying to find something new to watch because I'll get stuck watching the same stuff over and over again. Like on Netflix, Archer came out on Netflix. I'm like, well, I'm gonna watch Archer again. Even though I've seen it a million times on Hulu, I'm gonna watch it on Netflix. Like yeah. So I'm always trying to find something new to watch.
So I'm probably the worst person in the world to ask about this because I have this habit of going back and rewatching the same crap over and over and over again. So I almost have like a ritual every night before I go to bed. I throw on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's one of my favorite shows
Oh,
of
I
all
love
time.
that show. Yeah.
Such a great show, and that's like my I'm gonna go to bed and like put it on in the background kind of a show. I loved Entourage. That was like my other like one of my other favorite shows. I've watched that over and over again. I mean, like literally, like I can almost quote every episode at this point because I've seen it so many times. Right now, though, I'm trying to think. What am I watching? Abbott Elementary. I really, really love that. I think it's.
I haven't seen that yet. I heard good things, but yeah, I definitely want to check it out.
I mean, if you said you like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's almost like a Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Office, but it's in a school setting instead of it being a cop setting or an office setting. So
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's a good show. And then on Hulu, I'm watching Death and Other Details. It's like a murder mystery show. And that's pretty good. I mean, I like murder mystery stuff. So it's kind of got a lot of twists to it. A lot of things I didn't expect. I'm still not 100. My girlfriend and I are about 2 episodes left, so we're almost done with it, and it's suspenseful. It's pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, The Boys, obviously. The Boys is great. Invincible. If you guys haven't checked out Invincible on Amazon Prime, it's animated.
The cartoon. Yeah.
I mean, I'm usually not the kind of a person that watches a new show and like waits for something to come out, and I get so excited about it. And that show, it does it for me. Every single week, I'm like, okay, it's Thursday, it's midnight. Did this drop yet? Can I watch it? It's unbelievable. That's if you don't watch anything else that I've said, I talked to you about, watch Invincible. It's unbelievable. The first episode, if you aren't hooked by the end of the first episode, if you're not mind blown by the end of the first episode, then I don't think you have a soul.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't see it when it was coming out weekly or whatever. Peacemaker had me doing that when I was like, all right, what time's Peacemaker coming out or whatever? John Cena one. I was like, yeah, because that was real good and stuff, man. Yeah.
Definitely
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that show was so great, man. Like, every time somebody says that, like, one of the first things that comes to my mind is where Holt, they were down there in Florida running from the mob, on the thing, and he made Holt go up there and do the little rap for the kid. He had the thing on. He goes, Derek. Derek. Oh man, yeah, that is so hilarious. I'm like, yo, man, like, yeah. Captain Holt was so great, man. R.I.P. Andre Bauer, man. That guy was hilarious.
Broke my heart when he passed.
Man. Oh man, yeah, he was the straight man. You know what I mean? Just yeah, he was great. Yeah. Oh man. And then they had I like the Halloween episode every year where they try and bust each other and all this stuff.
Nice. Yep. Doesn't get I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, they would try and trick him, be like, all right, let's get a dog just like Cheddar and go in there. He's like, this ain't Cheddar. He's like, Paul, like, this bitch. You know what I mean? Like,
he's so great. Just like that show is just so great, but just the idea of how straight he plays everything just makes it so much better. He was phenomenal.
Oh, and his feud with what's her name? Oh man, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, so what are you doing? If you're here, then who's guarding Hades?" It's like, yo,
you cave mole beetle, like the insult. She's a Japanese toilet ghost.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah. I know she's a Japanese toilet ghost. Oh man, yes. I'm gonna have to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine tonight now, man. I haven't watched it in probably like a month or two, but yeah, I love that show. That show is great. Yeah,
that's my go-to.
Yeah, that's one of mine also, man. Because it's on Peacock. Peacock has all the seasons. Netflix only has like the first 4 or 5.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm like, all right, man. Hopefully, I'll get the rest on there. But yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, I can put it on Peacock tonight and watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah, man, I guess this show's hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, before I pass it back to Remy, I do want to say, thank you very much for coming on the show and chatting with us. I had a blast. I wish you nothing but the best on everything you do, man. I wish you nothing but best on. You said this weekend you got your acting stuff going on, and next couple weekends, I hope you kill it and do all your thing. I hope your podcast does well and all that good stuff, and you and everything is good and everything you do, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Same right back to you, man. I love the positivity here.
Albert, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on our show. We really and truly appreciate it. Looking forward to the podcast reuniting. Courtney's chomping at the bit to be on the podcast. So hey, I think you
Yeah,
might have your fourth. I think you might have your fourth member there. I don't know.
yeah. Just run up the flagpole to the big guy who makes the decisions, and when Jimmy whatever he wants to do is up to him.
Yeah, but we wish y'all all the best, and best of luck with your show. Hope you get a standing ovation and everything. And with that being said, keep up the great work you're doing, man. Keep the great work y'all doing with slam sessions and whatnot. And we wish you would, like I said, when we see you, if we decide to go that route in media and go into the media scrum, we'll definitely be cheering you on. We'll be like, yes, you did it. Our alumni 15 minutes of Fandom guest was on a media scrum for WrestleMania in Vegas or Survivor Series or whichever one for WWE. He did it. We'll definitely be cheering y'all on. And don't go too far because we'll be looking to have you, Tidy, and Jimmy Baby and Courtney back on for you're the predictions king. So we're gonna have you back on for Tidy told us that. So we're gonna try to we're gonna
I'm undefeated in WWE. I mean, I will say Jimmy did beat me in AEW, but I am undefeated on the show in WWE predictions. So
yeah, we'll definitely try to have y'all and Courtney back on for one of our predictions so in the very near future. So y'all don't go too far.
I'm here. Please reach out. I had a blast being on here. You guys are absolutely fantastic. I would love to be on whenever you guys would like to have me back.
That's great to hear. So before we shut this show down, where can fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling? Check out, the Slam Sessions podcast or the podcast, Positively Awesome Wrestling Podcast. So for those of y'all that don't know, it's not pod, it's paw, as in dog paw. Rob,
Yes.
do not bring Lucy in here because I don't have enough money to pay her, in kibbles and bits. Every time you bring her because she charges for appearances. Lucy's a beagle. And yeah, so y'all definitely make sure you check out those two podcasts. No, we're not gonna get upset here at Ringside Society. I always tell y'all, watching different podcasts like eating a different cereal every morning. You might guess most likely you're gonna get something different. I like to eat Frosted Flakes one morning. Next morning I like to eat some Lucky Charms. Maybe next morning I might like to eat some Honey Nut Cheerios. Check out the podcast. Check out Slam Sessions. They're doing great work over there. And with that being said, so we can transfer you on social media.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at KYD Justice, Kid Justice. That's right there. So that's where you can find me most of the time on X or Twitter or wherever they feel like calling it this week. And then on YouTube at the Slam Sessions Network, or just at the Slam Sessions, actually, I think is the handle now on YouTube. Go over there and check me out. And especially if you're into looking at somebody collecting wrestling figures, there's a whole bunch of stuff on there about that.
Awesome. So y'all heard, definitely go ahead and make sure you follow this man. If you're a wrestling figure collector, if you collect wrestling figures, definitely make sure you follow this man because y'all already got something in common. So with that being said, Albert, thank you very much. With that being said, it's about that time, it's about that time for us to shut this show down. My eyelids are getting heavy. My stomach is rumbling. That means it's time for dinner and a nap. Maybe not in that order, but before I partake in those activities, Rob Bass, the Mel Gibson to my Danny Glover, the Sean Spence to my Burton Guster, and the Charlie Haas to my Shelton Benjamin. Where can fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling, find out where your next appearance is, purchase Rob Bass merchandise, and where can bookers and promoters find you when they want to book you for their shows?
All right, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Rob_Base82, Facebook, Rob Base, and next show is you can catch 1CW. We're gonna be June. We're running like I think every week or whatever for like a bunch of weeks in a row. I know in June we're gonna be June 8th. We're gonna be in Harrington, Delaware. The next week after that, we're going to be in Henderson, Maryland, or no, Stevenson, Maryland. Then we're going to go back to Houston, Delaware after that, and I think we might do a thing in Jersey again. I don't know, but yeah, we're definitely busy. And if you can't get them in any of those, you can definitely check out 1CW at DelmarvaSportsNetwork.com. You can catch every episode from the past to now, get caught up on everything. You might even see me refing a match or ring announcing a match, and there's also clips of me, at training sessions getting beat up. You know what I mean? So yeah, I got hit so hard I thought I was Larry from Three's Company a couple times, but I'm all right. We're here now, so yeah, definitely check that stuff out, and yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah, y'all definitely. If you're in the Delmarva area, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and you're able to check out a 1CW show, please check them out. Those men and women are very talented. I had a great time last month, and I'm not just saying that. Like I legitimately had a great time last month. So y'all definitely make sure you check out 1CW. Support indie wrestling. It's a great thing. That's where the majority of your WWE and AEW superstars, come from. It's the indies. If you don't support indie wrestling, well, guess what's going to happen? Rob Bass is going to break into your house, eat all your food. He's going to leave a skipping rope in your fridge. That means you got to skip that. You got to skip a meal because Rob done ate your food. And on top of that, his Albert's name is Kid Justice. What rhymes with Kid Justice? Sid Justice. And you know that crazy look Sid gives you? Albert's going to give you that crazy look. And on top of that, we're going to have the Drip King judge you about your clothing. And he's going to be very, very, very critical. So if you don't want to have your food eaten, have a guy look at you like he's about to powerbomb you through a table, and another guy tell you about your clothes, guess what? Support indie wrestling. It's a great feeling when you see your favorite indie wrestler make it to the big time, and you can be like, yeah, I got his shirt from when he was on the indies. Y'all got the WWE and AEW stuff. I'm a real fan. It's a great feeling. Trust me on that. If you want to follow me on social media, not that I say a lot of cool things, but I do go to a couple of cool places, like my adventures in Japan. You can definitely find me on social media at the Remy Blue for Instagram, at the Remy Blue for Twitter, and I'm also on Facebook under the alias, you guessed it, Remy Blue. Our podcast is also on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society, Twitch at Ringside Society 2019. We're on Facebook as a Facebook group, and we're also on Spotify. We have a Teespring store where we sell merch, but we're redoing it right now. So as soon as we get our merch reorganized, we're definitely gonna let y'all know. Trust me, we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. And we're actually getting a new logo for our 15 minutes of fandom segment. So trust me, when y'all see it, y'all are gonna be like, wow, that's amazing. So definitely, or if not, hey, at least we tried. But definitely check us out on. Stay tuned for that. And last but not least, we have a YouTube show. We have a YouTube channel where you can see cool interviews like this one, like the one we had with Jimmy Bay, Tidy, Courtney Sawicki, and also the many other wrestlers as well, such as Jasmine Howe, the Diamond Sheik, actually Seth Rollins' former tag team partner Marek Brave. You can see that interview all on YouTube, and all you gotta do to see those cool interviews, it's really simple. Just go on YouTube, type in Ringside Society. Once you see that really good-looking dark blue and light blue yin yang sound with the blue flames around it, that's when you know. That's when you know it's us. So make sure you subscribe to all our videos because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and you don't want to miss a thing like Aerosmith in 1998. But with that being said, as a matter of fact, Rob, I'm feeling so nice right now. It's Friday, TGIF. Should I tell them what we have in store? Should I tell them what we have in store?
In my Los Angeles night voice, yeah.
All right. So, with that being said, this weekend we're gonna do something really crazy. We're gonna have our top 10 unpopular opinions in regards to pro wrestling. That's right. Top 10 unpopular pro wrestling opinions. Like Hulk Hogan is over. You can say Hulk Hogan is basic. You can say the hard dungeon. Well, you don't want to say the hard dungeon was not a good training school because then they might just offend me. But hey, it is what it is. You could see we're gonna have stuff like that, or you know, unpopular opinions. WrestleMania 9 wasn't the worst. It was actually WrestleMania 1. Unpopular opinions, meaning what one person's opinion is of something respectfully, which they're entitled to. We're going to be having that real soon. And we're also going to be having our WWE Queen and King and Queen of the Ring prediction shows and our AEW Double or None prediction shows coming up this next week as well. So stay tuned for those announcements. Special guests to be announced as well. And with that being said, we just want to thank you for tuning live tonight. Thank you very much, Courtney, Jimmy. Thank you very much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We strive on We strive on being one of the best wrestling podcasts a wrestling fan could, should, and would listen to, and we're not going to stop doing that. To those of you that will listen later on when you get a chance, thank you very much in advance. And those y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really truly wish we'd go away. Well, like myself at the Golden Corral and Rob Bass at the Taco Festival, we're not going anywhere for a while.
They hate us because they ain't us.
And we ain't stopping. So with that being said, we just want to let everybody know we're very well. And it's no secret, everybody and their grandparents and the parents of a podcast. But we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. So with that being said, hey, yo, Rob Bass, one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, one time for the positively awesome wrestling podcast, one time for the slamming sessions, and one time for Kid Justice, otherwise known as Albert Albanese.
Woo!
What type of podcast are we?
We're the Wrestling Fans Podcast.
That's right, we're the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society, and we'll be back with another impressive guest or another impressive episode. But until then, we just have 4 favors for y'all. Stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and enjoy wrestling. We out. Peace.
See y'all. Stay classy, Delaware.